we were just talking about mentorship, and I wanted to find out from Captain Ian Flockhart, what is mentorship and how do you mentor crew as a captain?
It's very simply put, mentoring is simply guidance. It's helping to guide people through, depending whether you're a professional mentor or outside of someone's career, or both, which I think is quite common in yachting. You're simply helping guide them through the career and life in general. It's a lot easier sometimes for a person that you're not that close to see the bigger picture, and they can see it a lot clearer than you can. So it'd be a lot easier for them to assist. Sometimes if you're a bit too close to someone, they can't necessarily see the whole wide picture. I think it's important to remember just how young and naive so many yacht crew are, and most don't think they are, but they'll look back in years to come to realize, that their own perception of themselves and the world around them at the time was not quite right, as we all do as we get older. So I think very much, mentoring is very important, but it's, I see it simply as a process of guidance to help steer people in the right direction, and whatever aspect of their life it is that they need some direction in.
Right, because mentorship, yachting, yes, we're working together, but you talk about life. A large part of what happens in their own personal life kind of gets brought onto the yacht. And even though, they might not talk about it, it still affects what is going on with them. So I actually, as part of my coaching, I try and examine a few things about what is going on in their personal life, and just really help them understand how that's impacting their decisions on board. So I know that you wrote it, well, how I found you was an article where you'd mentioned that you really find that this whole mentorship aspect of being a captain is lacking on yachts. And I just wanted to find out, why does this worry you?
It worries me because I believe, once again, because of the particular unique nature of our business, that mentoring is something that the captains, and on larger boats, the heads of department, it's an intrinsic part of their job. And if they're not doing it, then something is wrong. That's why it worries me, in the same way that if they're not doing, some fundamental part of, what happens on the bridge, then something is wrong, because it is a very important role, more specifically so because yachting is so unique. People, they don't have so many places that they can go to try and get help. And it's, you shouldn't be sitting there waiting for people to cry out for help, in their careers or the personal lives or whatever. You should kind of have your finger on the pulse of this. You should know what's going on your own boat. And it does worry me that, I hear, not only have I seen it myself, but I hear so many stories of people that, have worked, are working on vessels, whereby the mentoring just doesn't exist at any level on the boat whatsoever. And this is why it worries me, because I believe it is a fundamental part of a captain's job, or any senior manager in any organization, but more so because of the uniqueness and the isolation of seafaring.
Right. So one of the things that you do touch on is the fact that on larger yachts, the captain, it's just not possible, if you have 30, 40 crew, to mentor each and every single one of them, which is why you suggest that perhaps a purser is well positioned to, also mentor junior crew, mentor any crew, even mentor heads of department, in the fact that they can mentor their own teams. So, how would you incorporate that? Do you see that something needing to be written into a job description? Because, whenever you join and you sign your SEA, you get a job description. Yes, you're going to be doing this, managing this. Perhaps that's something that really should be a part of your, what's the word that I'm looking for? Your KPIs, or something that you get evaluated on as
Yeah,
a
I mean,
leader down the line.
a purser is a very senior role on a large yacht, and it should be as intrinsic to a purser or any other head of department that you are able to put into the whole mentoring process. And absolutely, it should be something that's in a job description, because it is an intrinsic part of the job. Why should it be left out of the job description? It really is an intrinsic part of the job, therefore it should be there. And I've written extensively on crew retention and hiring crew, and I've kind of come up with the catchphrase that retention begins at recruitment, and people should simply be hiring the correct people from the word go. And if you're going to be, if you've got a yacht that's got 30, 40 crew on it, that boat isn't going to run particularly efficiently if there aren't one or more people on board that can take up some kind of mentoring role with that number of crew on board. Look, you'll have crew that don't need mentoring. They're very grounded, they're focused, they know where they're going, there's no baggage in their personal lives. I mean, you will frequently meet people that do not need mentoring at all. You really will. But you will also meet plenty, probably more, that do need some level of mentoring. And as was mentioned in my article that you quoted there, yes, the captain can't always deal with it. So there has to be part of the senior team that will be there to assist with this process.
Right. I did an interview recently with a purser, and one of the questions was surrounding, how do they deal with issues on board, and if crew have an issue. And she just said, oh, well, it hasn't really been brought to my attention yet. And one of the things that I've said, well, do you have a way to recognize warning signs in crew? I think that's, like you said, people often don't want to come to you, and especially if you're the captain, or they don't want to go to a head of department and say, hey, I'm having this real issue, because they're worried that they're going to get fired. So these kind of things, it's not like crew are just going to come and say, oh, hey, by the way, my dog just died, or my granny just died, or something, or I'm really stressed because my mom just lost her house, or whatever it is. They're not bringing these kind of issues to the captain or to their heads of department, and there are some warning signs of depression, anxiety, and crew acting out. So I'm really looking down the line to also help and identify those early warning signs, so that somebody can step in and just say, like, hey, how are you doing? What's going on in your life?
I think something that whenever I join a new boat, at the earliest possible opportunity, I sit down and get all of the crew together, and we just have a meeting. Hello, how are you? This is who I am, etc., etc. Excuse me. And one of the things that I always do this is I emphasize to every single crew member on board, if you have any issues whatsoever, you can come to me 24/7. Simple as that. Be proactive about it. Your door is always open. And I've always follow through on this. Okay, I might not be able to speak to someone at that particular instant, but it'll be right. Okay, come back and see me, in an hour, or in, 2 days, whatever. If it's really manic, if it really can't wait 2 days, then we'll make it happen sooner. So you've got to be proactive about it at start, be extremely approachable. And I think that really helps if the most, low level crew member on board has been given that personal invitation to come and see the captain at any time about any subject, then it makes it an awful lot easier for them to do it. You have to break down the barriers. The days of ships are not run, or shouldn't be run, the way they used to be. The culture is different on board now. Yes, the captain is still in charge of everything that happens on the ship, but how many disasters have we had because the captain thought he was God and played God, and the crew were scared to speak up to avert a disaster. Some of them have paid the price by ending up in jail themselves for that, because they didn't speak up when they should have done. So the culture is changing, but I think having a good onboard culture, policies, procedures, training, always a good start. How you handle issues is very much depend on whether they're career or personal related. you need to look after those in your charge to the best of your ability, you know, once again, because of the uniqueness of the industry. I keep saying this, but it is so, so important. It is unlike, you know, almost anything else out there. And I think that, you know, as touched on earlier as well, the captains, the purser, the heads of department have to accept this as part of their role. It's a duty, it's a responsibility, and they should embrace it. And in the same way, you know, heads of department, purser, make sure that they've given the same speech that I do, you know, to their crew individually. You know, so let's say it's a, you know, it's a problem that's going to very, so we say very specifically female orientated. Okay. You know, it may be a harassment thing or whatever, some other, you know, thing. Then if the captain's a man, then, you know, they may not be quite so forward about coming to see the captain. So who are they going to come to? You know, they're most likely going to come to the purser, and this, you know, this has to be encouraged. So I think, you know, the heads of department, the purser, they need to, you know, make sure that their doors are as open as I, you know, as mine is as a captain, and that it's very clear from the start that that's, you know, that's the process is as simple as that. If, you know, if there's anything you're not happy about, you come and talk to someone about it. You know, when I have these little meetings, I always say, if you are not comfortable coming to talk to me, then go talk to a head of, you know, your head of department. Or if it's, you know, if you think maybe the, you know, the head of the department is the first line of defense, then go to them first. But the head of the department could be the problem. Okay, so you have to go over their head, and then you have to come to the purser or the captain, whatever. But either way, you know, you'll make people aware there is a structure there, there's a protocol. But in any instance, if you don't want to follow the protocol, then just come to the captain straight away. And you just have to make them fully understand that your door is always open.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with that. That's something that I'm trying to encourage in the Purser course. So we have, for the first module, you know, you're talking about hiring and retention of crew and beginning at the recruitment stage. I often ask crew who I coach, what does your ideal job look like? And they kind of just stare at me and go, I don't know.
They don't even know. Yeah.
Well, I'm like, well, how do you expect to find your ideal job if you don't even know what that looks like? So that's also an important thing, that, you know, crew just are so frantic. Okay, I'm between jobs. I need to find a job. Let me just apply for each and every single job, you know, and and that's the wrong way to approach anything. You know, if you're just kind of hoping like, okay, then when you land just one job and you have to take that job, then you're just putting it completely up to chance as to if it's
I mean, well, sadly, I can relate to that because, you know, I've had my periods of unemployment, and it gets to a point where you will take the first most awful job that comes your way because you need to pay the mortgage. It's as simple as that.
Exactly.
You know, and I've had some very challenging roles because of that. Some very challenging roles, you know, things that I really didn't want to be there, but you have no choice. You know, it's especially for captains, it's an extremely tough marketplace at the moment.
It is.
And so I can totally relate to that. You know, just whatever job comes your way. I mean, it would be fantastic to be thinking, oh, well, shall I take this one or this one or this one? I mean, please, that would be marvelous. But, you know, for most captains out there, it just doesn't happen. It's different with other crew members because it's just the whole balance of the supply and demand. Yeah.
Well, actually, I the latest yachting salaries, I think YPI does the survey. In the latest survey, it did say that there was an oversupply of captains at the moment, and just how tough that market is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So no, I mean, and again, there's 10 deckhands on a large yacht, but there's still only one captain.
Exactly.
And the same thing goes for purser roles.
Yep.
Now, even though I'm doing this purser course, I just say it's really, really difficult to get a purser job, and it's not just what you know. Sometimes it's who you know.
Yeah, well, very much who you know. Very much who you know.
Exactly. So that's why also, for me, I do focus on the networking side of things, and how do you backdoor your CV into the hands of a captain who's hiring. So we take a look at that. Anyway, the first module also takes a look at what type of questions you as a purser should be asking the captain
Yeah.
when they're hiring you. It's not just the captain interviewing you and saying, okay,
yeah, this is something I think a lot of crew really don't get. You know, an interview is a two-way process. You're not just sat there to answer questions. You know, you should be finding out. You know, you might want to. You know, you might end up with your interview saying, do you know what, I really don't want to work for that guy or that on that boat, because you just don't like what you hear. But if you don't ask the right questions, you won't even get a glimpse of, of how things are done. You've really got to, it's a two-way process.
Yeah. And how do you think the industry at large and management companies can go to owners and get them to be more proactive about developing leadership on board? I know it's we've touched on this a little bit, but
I think the simple answer is that you hire the correct captain and crew in the first instance. The rest will come naturally. Yeah. A lot of it depends on, if you've read a lot of the stuff I've written on LinkedIn, you'll see, you can roughly break in terms of crew and how they perceive them. Owners can basically be broken down into three groups. Management companies, what's their agenda?
Usually just cost cutting.
Yeah. What's their agenda? Safety. That's, that's the question you've got to ask.
As much as management companies play a very important role, I do find that a large part of their mandate is cost cutting.
Yep. So the two don't necessarily go hand in hand. There are numerous conflicts of interest that exist with management companies. And if they genuinely have the overall best interests of their clients at heart, then maybe they need to change the way they do certain things. Yeah, which won't be a popular thing to hear, but it's the reality.
Yeah. And on the subject of mentorship, did you have a mentor when you were coming up through the ranks, and how did they guide you through your career or making the right decisions or supporting you?
Not at all. I've never had a mentor, and I didn't come up through the ranks in yachting or any other industry. This is a little bit unusual in my life. I've basically always, I set up a company when I was very, very young, straight out of school. So I kind of started my life as being the person in charge. And that's mostly progressed throughout, the rest of my working life. When I came into the yachting industry professionally, I already had 90,000 miles, verified by the MCA as a master before I even came into the industry. So I've never really had anyone, certainly in yachting, that's kind of looked after me at all in any way whatsoever. I've just had to figure everything out on my own. I mean, my parents are, I'm very much a product of my parents, and they've been there, particularly my father, who's a man of great integrity. And he's contributed significantly to who I am. But again,
that's a mentor. It doesn't have to be,
it is. But again, it can be, sometimes it can be, if it's someone that's too close to you, it's not, they're not necessarily. So that would be the closest. But I've certainly had, no kind of formal or informal mentoring really from anybody. I think because I've always, this doesn't sound remotely arrogant, but I've always kind of been, up near the top of whatever I've been doing. And when you are kind of up near the top, you don't really tend to have anybody that's, that's there to help you. It's usually if you're a little bit further down the ladder that there's someone, willing, able, to offer help to you. So no, really, I haven't unfortunately benefited from any of that at all.
But that doesn't matter. I mean, to be a mentor, it's really, it's such a privilege, and through a lot of the research that I found is that being a mentor is actually a hugely stress relieving thing, and I found that it always gave me quite a confidence boost when people come to me and they rely on me, and just even having that small little confidence boost, it makes you feel more comfortable in your job and less anxious about the things that you're doing or needing to please other people. So that's really why I actively try and encourage all my clients to be a mentor, even if it's just to one other person.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need to be a captain or a purser or a chief stew even to be a mentor.
No, not
you
at
could
all.
be a stewardess with 1 season's experience and mentor a greenie.
Someone who's in a position to help somebody else, guide them
Totally.
through, you know, whatever it is they're going through at the time.
Just even if it's asking questions, you know, hey, I've got this issue, like, what should I do? And even if that's just saying, okay, well, these are the steps that you should take, or like, are you sure you know, do you need some help here? Or, yeah, I mean, being a mentor, I think people put it as like, well, you have to have achieved all this success before you can be a mentor. And it's not that at all. It's really, anybody can be a mentor.
Yep.
And so I do.
Oh, agreed.
Yeah. All right. And then just through your own personal experience, I mean, how has being a mentor helped? Like, what are the benefits that you've seen, the positive benefits to your teams of providing that safe space, or you know, just mentorship?
I think the benefits are almost beyond definition. When a crew look up to and respect their captain and senior crew, everything else generally just falls into place. You know, one of the secrets to being a good manager, a good leader, is to surround yourself by competent people who trust you and whom you trust, and it makes your own job an awful lot easier. So I think it helps to solidify the crew. It leads to better retention, an overall happier ship. It can also save money. It can reduce churn, regardless of how challenging the owners, the guests, the schedule may be. If you've got good leaders running the ship, it all becomes much easier, and the owners will always benefit from that, whether they appreciate it or not, whether they care about it or not. You know, the benefit is there regardless. You know, a lot of that all depends on, you know, on the type of owner you have. You know, you may have extremely challenging owners that no one on board, you know, likes to be working for. But if you've got good leadership, good crew, that, you know, the owner will be benefiting from that in some way, whether, you know, let's say whether they see it, whether they even care about it, but they will be getting, you know, an overall better experience because of that. So it's, there's tremendous benefit from it.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time.
Very welcome.
Yeah.